What's up, everybody? John from Old Running Farm here. Thanks for joining us. In today's video, we are going to talk about an oft discussed topic here, Alpaca 101, how to care for your alpacas. I know that a lot of you who watch all of our videos don't have alpacas, but I do know that you guys love watching ours, and apparently you guys like to hear me talk about them, so here we go. So, first off, alpacas are the best. They are a very low barrier to entry livestock animal. They're very kind, they're gentle, they're curious. They don't smell that bad, especially in terms of livestock, they don't smell. And they're just overall very nice creatures. You can see we have a couple babies here. This little guy right here is Cooper. The other little baby is Aspen. They were both born this year, right after Memorial Day, so they're a few months old, and they're all very nice. So there's really like 5 things that are very basic when it comes to taking care of alpacas that you need to know about: food and water, cleanup, shelter, medicine, and land. So first thing, when it comes to food and water, water is obvious. We all live on planet Earth, and water is very important to us. So you got to make sure that they have fresh water all the time. And now, especially in these months, so it is, what is it? It is just September now. We just had Labor Day. So it's hot. Today it is like 93 degrees. And, I'm not wearing this tank top just to show off my lack of muscles. I'm wearing this because it's freaking hot out here. And your alpacas are basically wearing a winter coat that they can't take off. So you got to make sure you provide them with plenty of water. So now Brenda's taking a leak. But you can see that she's well hydrated, which is great. So we have 2 100 or 150 gallon livestock watering tanks that we keep full all the time. We also, from time to time, especially in the summer, we will set up a splash pad, and maybe I'll actually do that now so you guys can see that. And the function of that is to keep them cool, because especially in the hot months, if you're somewhere where they get a lot of heat, you got to keep them cool, and it's very hard for them to do when they got a fur coat on. So, and then when it comes to food, you can see I'm right here near our hay feeder. Alpacas eat second cut hay, and an orchard grass mix is best. You don't want to go full Timothy, you don't want to go full alfalfa. Both of those are good as treats, but orchard grass has like the right amount of nutrients to take care of them without being like too fatty or too much carbohydrates, too much protein. Orchard mix with a little bit of alfalfa is fine, and Timothy grass is okay, just not a ton. So that's what we feed our alpacas. They also get a mixture of textured and regular alpaca feed pellets, either from Missouri or we use a Nutrina, and we just give them like a nice mix because the textured has a bit more stuff in it, and the regular pellets is more of like a regular livestock feed. If you've ever seen chicken feed, it's basically the same thing. But so why don't I go ahead and set up the splash pad so I can show you how they like it, and then we'll talk about the next thing. So next on my list was cleanup. And now, if you don't know what I mean by that, what I mean is cleaning up their poop. Because alpacas, being vegetarians, eating only grass and hay and some, alpaca pellets, they have a lot of fiber in their diet, which means they poop a lot. Now, the good thing about alpacas is that they generally pick 2 or 3 areas where they go. So cleaning up after them is relatively easy, especially compared to other livestock animals who just kind of poop wherever they're going. Alpacas pick 2 or 3 spots and they generally go there. Because one of the things about alpacas is that they're herd animals because they're prey animals. You can see they're really not that big. I think our heaviest one is probably 175 pounds, and she's very large. Also, there's a lot of horse flies, so please excuse my bumbling around. When you clean up their poop, now alpaca poop is actually highly sought after, and so if you get alpacas, there's a good chance that you'll be able to either give some away or sell it, because alpaca manure is cold, which means that you can put it directly into your gardens while they are growing, and you don't have to worry about it breaking down ahead of time. So something like cow manure needs to compost first to get rid of all of the stuff and all the extra nitrogen. I don't know exactly how it works. I just know that everybody has told me that alpaca manure is cold. You can put it right on there. We've been doing it for years and it is great. We have given some to some of our friends and family too. They've used it and it's come out great as well. No issues. We actually have a big pile of it right now that we're composting because we're going to be using it, I think, in this pasture over here, and we're actually mixing that in with our chicken manure to give it like a very, hopefully, vivacious compost. And next year, probably early spring, it'll be ready, and then we can put it down over here, plant some grass seed, and hopefully that'll grow. So that's just something very important that you need to do, because there are, you know, little worms and nasty things in their poop that is no good, so you got to get it out of there. But it's, again, it's very easy to pick up. We have a gorilla cart and we have a little hand shovel or rake. I'll show you what that is in a minute. Hopefully I don't forget. But it's very easy to clean up, especially because they go in the same locations. Let me give you a close-up view of what's going on over here. So that's Connie enjoying the water. I think we're going to need to get a new one of these things because they have done a good job at breaking it. You can see there's a leak over there. But did it stop? Oh no, there it's going. Maybe one of them just cut off the water supply. Anywho, let's go check on the boys. So on my way down here also, so we keep our boys and our girls separate. If you are getting into alpacas, you want to make sure that you keep your boys and girls separate. So I would recommend getting a herd that is just either all males or all females. There's going to be people out there who say, you know, I have a gelded male that's in with my female, and that will work for them, and that's great. But the general rule of thumb is you keep boys and girls separate, because boys will do what boys are genetically predisposed. Male alpacas will do what male alpacas are in general. I can't say this right. Male alpacas will try to breed the females, and they could do it over and over again, and they could really hurt the females, especially because of how the alpaca thing is formatted. It's just not a very enjoyable experience for anybody when it happens over and over again. Wow, really talking into it. What am I doing? Anyway, why don't I show you my giant poop pile? There's my giant manure pile. I'll have to come down here and turn it at some point. And you see there's mushrooms growing in it, so it's coming along. You know, we'll have to see how it goes for next year. But so this is the gorilla cart that I used to pick up poop in, and I'll show you over here, because I'm sure you all wanted to know about the poop cleanup. So these are our boys. We got Carl, Waffle, Glacier is the gray one, Winston's the brown guy in the ground, Felix is the white guy there, and Kevin is this handsome gentleman walking over here. So don't mind the twisty hay feeder. So this is what I use to pick up the poop. Just got a little garden rake and one of these little swiveling things. Anyway, all right, so I just realized that in my 5 list, I had food and water, shelter, medicine, land, and cleanup. Not in that order. But there's also shearing, which is very important and should be kept in the keeping alpacas cool region. So they get shorn once a year, and I'm sure we can include some footage of them getting shorn right here. So they get shorn once a year because, like I said before, it is too hot out here for them to have their full coat. And basically all alpacas these days are bred to continually grow their fiber. So if you do not shear them, you are doing them a disservice, because it'll just keep growing and growing and growing, and they'll end up being a big, matted, disgusting mess. And that's no good for the animal. So there's a lot of people out there, well, not a lot of people. There's a lot of people who don't understand shearing, but the main thing is it's actually good for them. and they love it after. They don't love when it's happening, but afterwards they can finally get to that itch. I mean, imagine you're wearing a fur coat all the time, and then finally they take it off and you can go scratch that itch that you've had for years. Anyway, so shearing is also very important. Should have been in my list. I think I said it in one of the like 6 times I listed it off, but that should be something you know about too. But another thing is medicine. So medicine is one of those things that nobody likes to do. You know, especially me, my wife, the alpacas don't like it, but it's a necessary form of protection for them. So once a month, we gather all of our alpacas together in the catch pen and we give them their monthly shots of ivermectin. Ivermectin prevents an infection from meningeal worm, which comes from white-tailed deer, which we have plenty of in this area. So basically what that does is it prevents the M worm from getting into their spinal column. It's a fatal disease, but actually recently they've been able to come up with a cure for it, or at least, as far as I know, they've come up with a potential series of things that can help. So basically, it used to be an incurable disease, and once you saw symptoms, it was big trouble. But now they have some things that can treat your alpaca once they get it, but basically it's way easier to just prevent it. So there's that, and then once a year we have the vet come out and they do CD&T and rabies. Not 100% sure what all that, I mean obviously the rabies vaccine, we know what that does. CD&T I'm not 100% sure, but that's what our vet recommends, so that's what we recommend. I can't with these chickens, they just won't shut up. All right. We're just gonna go in here now, because the next thing we're gonna talk about is shelter. So, hopefully you can't hear our chickens losing their minds out there for whatever reason. So, alpacas don't need a ton of shelter. In fact, most of the time, they are not in here. Most of the time. The only time they're in here is when it is like torrentially downpouring and it's cold, or it's, you know, really windy or something like that. But for the most part, they will be outside in the elements. They don't care. We have seen in the winter, they'll be out there with like 6 inches of snow on their back because their fiber is so well insulating that their body heat doesn't escape to melt the snow. So again, all we have, and we have 3 barns. One of them is now a peacock house, but the 2 others we have are just like this. And these are basically 12 by 16 approximately, like run-ins. So there's just a big open end here, 3 enclosed sides. That way, if it's really windy, they can just get in here. If it's raining, they can get in to escape the rain. And they're 12 by 16 because that's what our zoning regulations are here, in order for us to not have to get a building permit and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we got. Obviously, the more alpacas you get, the bigger your enclosure should be, but for the most part, this suits our alpacas just fine. Last up on the list, as far as I can remember, Catherine, I'm sorry that I can never remember what the hell I'm talking about with these things whenever I do a list. So, next up is land. The USDA recommends, I believe it is 1 acre per 500 pounds of livestock. Could be wrong about that, and I believe that's just an estimate. But so that would put you at basically 1 acre per 3 or 4 alpacas. So, and now that's basically with the animals just grazing on that land. Obviously, we don't have that here yet. We are working on that going forward, though. As I'm sure most of you know, land is pretty expensive. Fencing is pretty expensive. So we're working on it. We have a dry lot for our alpacas up there, and then we have, I think it's like 3/4 of an acre with grass. But we also feed hay, so they do just fine. You know, we have 6 boys down here in what I believe is a 1/4 acre. No, a 1/2 acre, sorry. But because we feed them hay all the time, they always have access to hay. They do just fine. They have plenty of space to run around, And there's plenty of spaces around here where they can all get away from each other, because boys tend to fight, girls don't for the most part. I mean, the girls will get into little tiffs about food and stuff like that. You know, you're hogging the water, you're hogging the food, get out of here. The boys just kind of fight because they're stupid, you know, boys. You know how they are. And so they need to have plenty of room to get away from each other. But, you know, we have the barn over there with the catch pen. They have space over here. We're going to be expanding into this dense jungle at some point. I think the plan is in January, we'll put the wood fencing up there. We'll take the wire fencing that's there now and bring it down here, fence in this area once this is all dead from the winter. But anyway, you know, you want to make sure you have enough land. You don't need a ton of land for alpacas unless they are only eating grass, in which case, you know, I think the 3 or 4 per acre is probably true. Otherwise they will, you know, destroy that grass. But again, you can always get hay and supplement it with feed. So we feed our alpacas every morning, and they have free access to hay at all times, and they do pretty well. Our vet has said that she is very happy with how healthy we are able to keep our 30 alpacas, which is always a point of pride for us. We like being able to take care of our animals to the best that we can do. So anyway, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for sticking through it with me. Hopefully the chickens weren't too loud. But, you know, deal with it. Anyway, sorry, just kidding. If you guys have any questions about alpacas, leave them in the comments down below or send us an email. You can find contact information on our website, oldreddingfarm.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.